Not a bad composition. Retribution Paladin's going to be effective against Windwalker, Death Knight. Looks like Balia is going to be trying to get some damage onto Rocket. Also, Elemental Shaman's very strong against Windwalker DK, so I think this is a strong comp coming in from Keyboard Rhythm.
I mean, this is the ultimate counter comp maybe for Windwalker Death Knight. We're going to have to see how favored it actually ends up being, as Lucy is trying to go after Burley in the back line, just trying to gun down that healer, but now counter pressure towards him. That Fist of Fury flying, it could immediately force a Divine Shield. It's a race to the finish, and Burley is actually going to go down very early on to Keyboard Rhythm's unexpected double Paladin Elemental Shaman.
Race to the finish line. It didn't look like the finish line was too far away from the start line there. Keyboard Rhythm going to be able to start off our tournament with a bang. Is this the start to the Miracle Sonata? Will Keyboard Rhythm be able to orchestrate the impossible? Will they be able to go all the way to land? Whoo! That's just a good way to start off.
All fired up.
Yeah, I'm jazzed up. I'm jazzed up. My coffee's still fresh in my veins. And then Keyboard Rhythm going to be able to kick me right in the face to get things started. That is one for them. Zico, for anyone who blinked, what happened? What was the moment-to-moment intricacies that Keyboard Rhythm was able to string together?
Well, it comes down to cooldown usage. Again, Retribution Paladin, very, very scary when you pop that Crusade. And of course, we saw that Crusade come out, and then we saw that Hammer of Justice done. Burley decided to not trinket out of that one. They used the Anti-Magic Zone instead, and then there was a knockback out of that Anti-Magic Zone, as well as the Death Grip on to the Red Paladin, and then the Red Paladin kind of just got big crits, and good night, Burley.
You just gotta love, you spend 10 minutes setting everything up and then the match just lasts 5 seconds. But guys, for anyone who missed that, we want to let you know exactly what happened, let you know how we're going to be watching all of the games today. Of course, we are going to be following the same match format that we've been following all season. And Supatis, for anyone who isn't familiar with it, or anyone that just saw that first game, saw that blind pick on the Grand Arena, how is the match format going to play out for every game that we see today?
Yeah, so the blind pick means that neither team tells the other team what they're playing, and that's why we saw Keyboard Rhythm play double Paladin Elemental Shaman. They expected Windwalker DK Nation to play Windwalker Death Knight because it's in their team name and they've only got 3 players. So they said, okay, what is the ultimate counter to a Windwalker Death Knight Shaman? Let's just put 2 Paladins and an Elemental Shaman. That sounds like it would be good. Oh, it was really good. Okay, that's our blind pick. Now that they've won that, it's going to go to the loser's pick, so Windwalker DK can pick the map. Then Keyboard Rhythm will lock in their comp. But because Windwalker DK Nation seems to only have one setup, I think we're going to just be seeing this Ret Paladin Elemental throughout the series, unless Windwalker DK Nation can find an answer for it.
Yeah, this composition, it definitely struck a chord. Now, ultimately, Keyboard Rhythm going to find themselves up 1-0 in the series. This composition, though, do you think, obviously, Pride doesn't come in, right? Pride does not play within this composition. But do you think having a person like that who has so much experience at LAN, do you think that helps Keyboard Rhythm start to think about the game in this way, get comps like this together?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's the one that came up with this comp. We haven't seen them run it before, so maybe he decided that this was the best composition going into Windwalker DK. We can never know for sure unless we actually ask them. But yeah, having someone that does have all that tournament experience as a fourth on your team to come up with some of these different comps and execute different strategies is definitely going to be helpful.
It's an important thing to note because there are quite a few times, I mean, we make jokes over in NA about players like Sam I Am, right? But that's a player that's affected that team in a certain way, pushed them to try different compositions, sometimes even when he is not brought in, and that may be what we're seeing now in the EU with a team like Keyboard Rhythm. Yes, Pride doesn't come in that first game, but it's going to be influential. It affects how you war game. It affects what you prepare, and it can push you outside of your comfort zone. So bringing on new players, just straight up, it's a pretty easy thing, pretty much on the nose, but it's going to impact your team more than just about anything else, and it seems like Keyboard Rhythm has a pretty strong composition here. What can Windwalker DK Nation do, though, to prevent that? Supatis brought up a very important thing. He says, look, Windwalker DK Nation, they named their team after the comp they play. No real surprises there headed into the Grand Arena. Go figure in the blind matchup. But what can they do against this composition that Keyboard Rhythm seems to have found?
I think they need to start it out and find opportunities to take down the Retribution Paladin. They can get those incapacitate setups onto the Holy Paladin, maybe stun him out of that, and then get themselves Fist of Fury stun or something onto the Red Paladin and try to cover that Blessing of Sanctuary. And then, just rinse and repeat. Eventually they can take down the ret, but the problem is when they go on that ret, the ret gets full uptime on 2 melees, and he gets to cleave them, gets to cleave the Windwalker and the Death Knight of Windwalker DK Nation. So it's a little bit scary, but the main thing is Burley needs to stay as far away from the Retribution Paladin as possible, and they kind of need to drag on the game a little bit until they can find that big burst opportunity.
They got to find it, though, in this series, because this is an elimination match. The team that loses this, no longer in the tournament, and the dream dies right there. If either of these teams loses, one of them obviously will, but whichever team loses, that's it. Their dream of going to LAN just going to be done. So this is about as high stakes as you really can get, especially for these online cups, and that's what we're going to see this weekend for the EU, and that's what we're going to see next weekend for NA, and then after that, we're headed straight to the LAN with those top teams. So Super T's, a lot on the line here as we head to Ruins of Lordaeron.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Windwalker DK Nation, they're going to have to keep playing the same comp because it's pretty obvious that's all they've got. So the strategy of going after the Retribution Paladin could work for them. And Zico's already outlined the kind of negative parts of that. It means the Ret Paladin could almost hit 3 people if he runs at the Shaman and the Death Knight and the Windwalker are next to him. So I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. He's the squishiest target and the easiest target to hit, but he's going to do the most damage while you're hitting him. So it's a really big risk. I'm actually wondering how many people at home might be going into LFG trying to find a Ret Paladin, Holy Paladin, Ellie Shaman, because it actually seems like as a beginner comp and like LFG, as a healer, having an Ellie and a Ret on your team, that's the most healing, the most support you're ever going to get. Like, this is probably the easiest comp to heal, and into a melee cleave especially. So I feel like Keyboard Rhythm have kind of got this in the bag.
Yeah, that's like one of the things, you know, ultimately.
You could heal this comp.
I don't know if I could heal it. I could probably play the Ret. I was about to say we might have to break Bubbles and Runs out of retirement. I have not played that.
I didn't even know that existed.
You didn't know I had Bubbles and Runs?
That sounds really.
Then my other pally's name is Rich is Bad. Stream made me make that one.
That's rude.
That's so mean.
Not very nice.
It's a holy cow as well. But we're going to be jumping straight into our second game, Ruins of Lordaeron. Will Keyboard Rhythm be able to do it again, or will we see Windwalker DK Nation take them straight there to the nation of Windwalker DK?
Yeah, we'll have to see if that works out for them. I'm curious, like I said, how can Windwalker DK Nation really find some pressure in this matchup? Keyboard Rhythm seems to have all the answers with this composition. Balia and Crota going to be pushing it right away. Incapacitate onto I Love Lucy, very standard play. That's going to be proccing that automatic or trinket that the Retribution Paladin has.
Oh, interesting. So Windwalker DK Nation, they're going to go after the Elemental Shaman and grip the Holy Paladin in for swaps. Early on, Lucy deflected it by Senkin. Korok out of the stun. He easily escaped. This is looking like a great start so far for Keyboard Rhythm, but Windwalker DK Nation are trying to turn up the heat, forcing Astral Shift from Procket, dipping him down below half, but immediately recovering afterwards. Curious to see if Lucy's going to go after the Shaman. This time around, it looks like they're going after the DPS. Instead, we see an anti-magic zone as Procket retreats out of it. Death Grip mistimed. Procket was able to kite away before the double stun land. Procket doing a great job to kite, but he is running low on cooldowns.
Yeah, Procket's going to have a lot of freedoms from these two Paladins supporting him in this matchup. Now Balia and Crota forced to retreat and play a little bit defensive here, and this is not what you want to do against a Ret Pal. You cannot be grouping up like this. I Love Lucy's going to be able to get a whole bunch of pressure with this Hammer of Justice onto Burley's. He gets lower. Gets a trinket out with the pre-Earthen Shield totem. That's a disaster for Windwalker DK Nation.
Yeah, Burley trades out Earthen Shield, and he at least he actually hasn't survived the Crusade. If the UI is correct here, Lucy still has that massive damage cooldown. He could just run over the entire team like a freight train whenever he decides to actually use that. Borug, in the meantime, has a lot of cooldowns to keep his team going. Burley's going to be in a hard position. The next Hammer of Justice could close the match onto him, and Lucy's right on top of him. Curious to see when they decide to pull the trigger. There's the Hammer of Justice. Procket is still kiting in midfield. That Freedom Shaman with Ghost Wolf just running for his life. Going for a Stormkeeper, getting interrupted on it. Dipping dangerously low with an incap onto Burrow. This could easily be a trinket sacrifice. Burrow trying to be careful. A Death Grip into a double stun. This is a good setup from Windwalker Death Knight Nation. They've got the Touch of Death rolling. Striking the Windlord. That's a lot of burst. Burrow needs to be careful not to throw the game. They're all over him. He's going to Divine Shield and recover, but that was a great push from Windwalker DK Nation. They're at least staying in the fight.
Yeah, they got the bubble. They got the sacrifice. A lot of cooldowns from Keyboard Rhythm. Balia now turning his attention over onto Procket once again. Good pressure there. Burley's been doing a good job line of sighting, making sure he's getting those Earthen Shield totems down. Nice triple stun. That was very nicely done by Windwalker DK Nation, but Burley's the one in the Hammer of Justice who could be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, Burley with no trinket, trying to jump away from Lucy. Lucy's going to come back and try and support Borug. Windwalker DK Nation, they're doing what Windwalker DK does best, training down the healer. Borug under pressure, trying to feed him back into the corner. He's going to be using that Blessing of Protection in line of sighting the purges of Burley. That was good positioning from Borug. Burley's trying to move in to purge it off now. He's getting a great aggressive, but that means they're going to triple stack for Lucy. He's going to be doing a ton of Divine Storm damage. Burley's trying to counteract it with the Ascendance as a race to the finish, as Boruk actually doesn't have many cooldowns left. The Fist of Fury is going to connect, and Windwalker DK Nation might be walking away with a win. Boruk trying to fake out 3 interrupts, but it's stunned. Secures him in place. Procket tossing out some heals. Will the support be enough? No, Boruk will fall, and Windwalker DK Nation hangs in long enough to punch through going after Borug in game number 2.
They do it. They manage to stamp 3 passports straight to Windwalker DK Nation, and that is not a plane ride that these boys wanted to get on. Looked very commanding for a while, and there were a few very impressive moments there on both sides. I mean, first of all, we see a Windwalker DK find a strategy against what is a composition that is straight up made to defeat it. But ultimately, Keyboard Rhythm has some nice adaptations too, mainly with the positioning that we saw here. It's like, okay, look, if you're going to try to bring me down, I can move away from you, try to get stacked up, try to use the Ret to its full ability there, Zico. But really beautiful game, I think, on both sides. How was Windwalker DK Nation able to switch things up and find a victory?
I think they had a nice approach here. They were hitting the Elemental Shaman as the off target, and then once they got him a little bit low, they would incapacitate the Holy Paladin, and then they would death grip him in and try to get those double stuns on the Holy and the Red, or on the Holy Paladin and the Elemental Shaman, and they managed to get that bubble from Borug doing that, and then they managed to kind of reset, wait for their cooldowns to come back up, and then do it a couple more times and take down the Holy Paladin in the end. The only scary thing here was that moment in the start where Keyboard Rhythm had the trinket forced on Burley, and they had that next window where they could maybe Hammer of Justice Burley and take him down the next time the Crusade was available. So it was kind of a close match. I could definitely see Burley going down, but right there at the end when that moment happened, we did see that very, very nice anti-magic zone come out and protect Burley from that, so Windwalker DK could stay offensive. So I think they spaced their defensives well, and they had some nice offensive setups. They played the matchup well. Map definitely helped them a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think the only moment in that game I didn't really like is when Barug, he actually pre-sacrificed one of their grip goes onto the Elemental Shaman, and he didn't die, obviously. The Elemental Shaman didn't die, but he ended up taking all that cleave damage, all that sacrifice damage, falling behind, and that's where they got the bubble. So I think if he rotates his trinket a little bit faster, even if he already threw out the sacrifice, just to get away, prevent them from getting all that cleave damage down, because they do have a lot of cooldowns they can rotate through. You can't be sitting those stuns so early on. And if they force your bubble, it's going to be so easy for them to decide this is their moment to all in. That's really your key defensive.
That should be one of the biggest struggles, right? I mean, Windwalker DK Nation needs to get, I think it's 4 million cooldowns. I actually think that's the number of cooldowns that they need to be pulling. That's correct, right?
Yep. Checks out.
4 million cooldowns. It's insane the amount of things that they need to go through.
Especially rotating with the Blessing of Sanctuary.
Yeah.
You have the human trinket, you have Sanctuary. You have the second trinket, you have Sanctuary. And then Sanctuary's, you know what I mean? Like, it just rotates basically indefinitely if you aren't afraid to preemptively use them. If you fall behind and you're sitting the stun lock, he probably thought he made a good play. It's like, yeah, I sacrificed his death grip. That's great. Well, guess what? Now you're taking all the AoE damage from the Shaman as well as the damage onto you.
I think that's the thing that's so crazy as well. You got to go through all those cooldowns. Even with getting every single one of those cooldowns, it was still a close game. There were still plenty of opportunities where it was like, okay, Keyboard Rhythm can just close this one out here with this composition. So I think that that's a main thing that we need to keep in mind going into the next game. It was still close, Supatis.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting it to be more one-sided for the Ret Paladin Elemental Shaman, but it didn't end up being the case. As soon as they got that swap to Borug, and as you pointed out, he didn't respond with any cooldowns because he thought that they were going to target down the Shaman, but obviously they do damage to multiple targets, and they can switch when you're right next to them, so they made a really good switch and got Divine Shield, which is the only cooldown that guarantees that Borug won't die. Blessing of Protection doesn't guarantee that because it's only physical damage, and it can be purged off, so it's very difficult. You can get interrupted by Mind Freeze or Wind Shear on the team. You avoid all of the Monk damage, but none of the Death Knight really, or the Shaman potentially purging it. So as soon as your Divine Shield is gone, you're a really exposed target as a Holy Paladin, and because of that maybe misjudgment on thinking like, oh yeah, played them, but then got swapped to, because of that decision, he blew that cooldown, he had no chance to survive later on. And it just seemed like Burley did a better job healing. I mean, the first game, I think maybe he was not expecting to get thunderstormed out of the zone and then just sort of die instantly. I think he was more like, whoa, what is this comp? Like, I'm going to play this slow, just zone me. And then suddenly he was dead after a thunderstorm. This game around, Burley looked a lot better on the Shaman.
Yeah, I think now they kind of both know what to expect, and we got a real matchup on our hands. It's all tied up. Do not go anywhere. We're jumping to a quick break. When we return, we find out who gets to move on to try to get to the LAN and who is done with their run for the season. Folks, welcome back. We've already started to talk about how huge the stakes are in this match, and it's only the first one of the day. One of these teams gets to continue competing for a spot at the LAN, and one is absolutely done for the season, and we're all tied up. Windwalker DK Nation, they are pretty much stuck on the island of Windwalker DK. Keyboard Rhythm has found a countercomp, but already Windwalker DK has found some ways to navigate around what Keyboard Rhythm is throwing out. Right now in Twitch, you guys think that Keyboard Rhythm is going to be able to take it by an overwhelming 63%. Will Windwalker DK Nation prove you wrong, or will Keyboard Rhythm be able to take them down yet again?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to proper defensive cooldown rotation. It really needs to be Baruch has to save that Divine Shield because, like I said, when he doesn't have that available, Windwalker DK Nation can feel confident. They can go all in with the Touch of Karma, with the offensive purges, and they get a lot of pressure very early on. We
We see Procket immediately kiting to the open space in the far left corner. This is going to be where he wants to play most of the games, so that the Death Knight and Windwalker Monk are completely exposed, and they can try and drag Burley into the open. Burley repositioning, though, not overextending at all. We see a Death Grip on Borog early on, but immediately sanked off, so Borog should survive this initial attack quite easily. Valia and Crota now immediately going back to the Elemental Shaman to try and reduce his damage by making him have to move. That Fist of Fury doing a ton of damage. Could be a cooldown from Procket early on. He needs to be careful. They have everything available. Sacrifice will be traded out. Now they could swap off the Sacrifice. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to make it just yet. We see Lucy making a swap. The anti-magic zone to protect Burley. No Thunderstorm, going to be cheekily knocking him out of that. He needs to deal with interrupts, though. He gets rebuked. There's still a lot of damage available for Lucy if Burley isn't careful. Crota tossing out that Dragon for another swap to Borog.
Yeah, Borog's going to be in a little bit of trouble here. He needs to kite away. Touch of Death has actually been committed. Incapacitated on the Procket. He trinkets to help Barug, so he's trying to do what he can to keep him alive. They really want to protect that. But now Procket, there's no trinket, is going to be susceptible to those stun locks. I Love Lucy's going to have to do a good job with that Blessing of Sanctuary to remove the stuns incoming from Windwalker DK Nation. In the meantime, though, Balia, Crota, they're going to be rotting down low, but a nice setup coming in. Incapacitate into blind over onto Barug and Lucy. Procket's in a lot of trouble. Astral Shift's going to be used. Tries to kite away with the Freedom. Blood Elf Silence coming in from Crota. Ultimately, Procket should be able to survive this, but there's really good pressure for Windwalker DK Nation.
Yeah, the pressure is still not subsiding as Procket dips lower and lower. Borog needs to do something to save him. Finally restabilizing. Valia going towards Borog, but a full Hex was sneakily casted onto Burley. Let's see if they can build any pressure off the back of this. It doesn't look like they can, and they're forcing Procket to always be in Ghost Wolf. He's not able to get enough damage out, and going after the Elemental Shaman means that sometimes the Ret Paladin can't keep up either. He can't make swaps to Burley. I think this targeting is really good. The swaps are really good from Windwalker DK Nation. They're dealing with what would be considered a counter comp quite effectively.
Yeah, Barug's going to be sitting very far away, just trying to free cast out these heals. If you look at mana, it's relatively even. Now they're nice setup coming in from Windwalker DK Nation. Lucy's going to be using the Sanctuary, but Barug needs to be able to kite away. If Balia and Crota can have uptime, it's going to be very difficult for him to keep himself alive. Manages to get behind the pillar. Crota going to have a difficult time reconnecting. Uses the Wraith Walk, though. And as you can see, Barug doing a good job with that Divine Steed. He's going to be moving away, making it very difficult for this Death Knight to catch up.
Yeah, Borog wants to make sure he's always in the open, far away from the Death Knight. That way he can max range the Death Grip and any potential swaps to himself. Borog moving in for Hammer of Justice. Crota, the primary target. They could easily get an Icebound Fortitude if they can do enough damage. An Ice Fury is casted, but they peel it away for a couple of seconds. I don't think they're going to have enough damage. We see Earthshock, Lava Burst on Burley. Takes almost half his health away. He's immediately back behind the pillar, licking his wounds. Procket manages to recover with a big heal from Borog. Mana completely tied at this point, but pressure in favor of Keyboard Rhythm as Balia dips below half. Crota getting close as well. See a Thunderstorm trying to knock him out of that anti-magic zone. Balia trying to do a setup with a paralysis on Borog, targeting down I Love Lucy, but it's not enough. Borog getting gripped into the double Fist of Fury. Good setup from Windwalker DK Nation. Borog forced to trade out Avenging Wrath to recover. Balia needs to be careful. He could bless your protection this Touch of Karma. Doesn't look like they're going to all in on that Touch of Karma. We see a swap now to Burley. A stun on the Trinket. Earthshock to follow it up and a ton of damage. Burley on 10%. Barely survives.
Yeah, Astral Shift Descendant's going to be traded out. That was his Trinket also, so big victory there for Keyboard Rhythm. Not too bad of a job. Balia rotting down low, and without that Touch of Karma, it's going to be scary for him as well. This large map is paying off for Keyboard Rhythm. Like you said, Sid, Barug, Procket able to just stand so far away from each other that it's so difficult for the Crota to get those same sort of grip setups that they were used to in the last game.
Good reaction from Balia, seeing that Borog was trying to sneak away and get a drink. Balia immediately moves in to deny that. We see a Paralysis set up now onto Lucy once again, but Procket delays it with it. But the Pillar of Frost could easily force Divine Shield on its own as Crota gets a solo Divine Shield. Good pressure there from Crota. Balia with great crowd control to allow that to happen. Crota now the primary target. Anti-Magic Shell is going to protect him. Lucy making a swap over to Burley. Hammer of Justice into Hammer of Justice, but he got a Healing Tide Totem down right before that stun, and the Healing Tide Totem supported him quite effectively. Burley doing a great job. Mana now, though, in favor of Borog as we move further into dampening this large map. Is definitely paying dividends for Keyboard Rhythm.
That's the thing. Lucy now, no Divine Shield. The only thing that's going to be able to keep him alive from an offensive push is going to be either a Blessing of Protection or that Blessing of Sanctuary that Barug has available to him. Crota charging in once again. He has that big cooldown. That Pillar of Frost coming up in 15 seconds. Grips tries to go for the double stun. Unfortunately, they don't land it. And now Balia forced to port away. Has a Karma, though, so should be fine in terms of defense. Lucy trying to reconnect now onto Burley, putting a lot of pressure. Touch of Death actually immediately committed onto Lucy as they try to put some pressure onto him. Gets the Blessing of Protection off just to remove that Touch of Death. Not going to be taking all that additional burst damage, and ultimately will survive.
Proto had to trade out his main defensive cooldown, Icebound Fortitude, in that last attack from Keyboard Rhythm, so he's not going to have that safety net to survive later on. Lucy is an exposed target as well, with no Divine Shield from Crota's Pillar of Frost earlier. Crota not able to stay on target, though. Lucy doing a good job to kite away. Procket as well. Lucy just needs to buy time. Borog definitely needs to try and get a drink. That's the only significant way I see them winning this into a dampening game. Nice Thunderstorm on the Fist of Fury. They managed to force a Touch of Karma, an anti-magic shield. Keyboard Rhythm in the driver's seat. They've got a lot of cooldowns. It would be a throwaway for them to lose this at this point. I feel like Hammer of Justice onto Burley. Borog trying to move in and maybe chain that into another one. Second Hammer of Justice. Crota getting bursted down, and with no Icebound Fortitude, he's quite exposed, hanging on by a thread. Burley moves in. He's trying to be greedy. Will the greed pay off? He wanted to go for a Spirit Link, but he manages to hold on to it. Very greedy call from Burley, but he's going to hold on to the Spirit Link Totem. That's their last line of defense.
Yeah, the AMZ, though, that's a huge defensive that they're able to pull out. Now if they make a swap over onto Burley, not going to have that available for them. You can see Balia and Crota trying to chase down Procket once again. Balia, he has no defensives available. He's a great target right now for Keyboard Rhythm as he gets a little bit lower. Good damage, though, over on the Procket. Barug into the Incapacitate. Uses the Sacrifice on Procket, so that's going to break that. Now just continuously trying to keep distance, making it so difficult for Balia. Look at him, he's caught into the middle of the map, exposed. Big heals coming in from Burley, though, going to keep him stable until he can get back to his port. Behind the pillar, should be fine for now, but Burley's not doing good on mana.
Yeah, Procket's always switching to Burley when they manage to kite him in the open to try and lower his health, so if he Spirit Link Totems, it's not really going to redistribute anything. We see a swap to Borog. Will he have the Sanctuary? Yes, Sanctuary instantly on Borog to get him out of that stun. Borog's actually trying to get aggressive. He's chasing down Burley for a Hammer of Justice. He gets gripped back, though, into a double blind. Procket all alone, trying to get some damage done. That's a lot of Chain Lightnings over on Balia and Crota, both exposed targets for about 7 more seconds. Balia's just going to portal back. Borog, the primary target here for the team of Windwalker DK Nation. He's trying to retreat away. He has that Divine Shield, though, that critical cooldown. They can make a push. Burley's got his trinket, though. It's still quite even at this point. Healer's reasonably close on mana, and this is a lot closer of a fight than I was expecting.
Yeah, poor Crota. Look at him. He's stuck in the middle of the map, trying to create something happen. Grips over Lucy, just Divine Steeds away right away, trying to slow down that drink. But Burley actually got a little bit of mana there. Not too bad. Leg sweep now over onto Lucy. Good pressure on him as he overextends. Tried to slow down that drink. Windwalker DK Nation able to punish, getting that Blessing of Protection, but that was the Touch of Death, at least committed from Balia, so not the worst thing. We're at 15% dampening right now, and it's going to become so much more difficult for these healers very, very shortly.
And Borog used his Avenging Wrath, which is his biggest boost of healing on that attempt on Lucy, so it's going to be fading here shortly. They're crowd controlling him through it. He doesn't have a trinket. Lucy's in trouble. He's trying to kite into the corner. There's a blind to follow it up. If Proto connects, Lucy could fall. There's no more crowd control. Lucy hangs on by a thread. Borog needs to connect to heal now. Manages to save him. Divine Shield still available for Borog, though. If they swap back to him, we see the zone. Borog actually going to Blessing of Protection and run away. Both teams are running so dangerously low on mana. The healers are starting to have to deal with a high percentage of dampening. I don't think anyone's really going to go back to full EP for quite some time as Burley's the target. He's trying to retreat away. Spirit Walker's Grace to move and cast. Catches a Gift of the Queen. Will Borog fall, though? He's overextended. He's trying to free him back. He realizes it. He trinkets out of the stun. He needs to create distance. Nice Hex on Pro. It's not actually getting dispelled. He's sitting through that full Hex. That's going to lower their pressure for quite some time. Pillar of Frost is now available. Windwalker DK Nation need to get something done with this. Who can they go after? Divine Shield available for Borog. Divine Shield available for Lucy. It's looking good for Keyboard Rhythm in this position.
Yeah, they have that. They have all those defenses that they need to stay alive. Like you said, the Trinket Sacrifice will keep anyone up. Burley still has the Spirit Link Totem. Unfortunately, he has no Trinket. Procket taking a whole bunch of bursts. Going to be trading out that Astral Shift. Windwalker DK Nation going for kind of a split strategy here. Lucy's going to be supporting Barug as he's chasing down Burley. Procket running away. Procket getting lower and lower, though. Barug trying to connect the heals. Procket goes into the full blind as they make a swap over onto Barug. Balia and Crota finally able to connect on the same target. Big pressure, but he kites away, gets gripped back. Divine Steeds once again. Now Crota's not going to be able to get back to him. He has to turn his attention elsewhere. Crota getting so low. Hammer of Justice onto Burley. No trinket available. Crota getting lower and lower. Fist of Fury stun coming in for Balia just to try and do anything he can to peel. Crota now just retreating behind the pillar, but unfortunately now without that Wraith Walk, not going to have the most.
Oh, Balia!
Nice.
Overextending. Caught in the Hammer of Justice. Burley dispels him, but into an Earth Shock. Touch of Karma is now just available. He barely catches the end of it. Portaling back out of line of sight. Burley's got no mana left. He's got a Spirit Link Totem, but in dampening, he can't even handle it. There's a Stormkeeper. Procket's about to unleash a ton of Chain Lightning. They paralysis him. They're trying to buy time for it. Force the Divine Shield. There's the Spirit Link. Burley pops the Ascendant. They manage to pull the Divine Shield as both teams go all out in these final seconds. Dampening is so high at this point that neither team is really able to restabilize. Bolrug has Avenging Wrath though in his back pocket. That allows him to immediately restabilize his team. Burley is the one that's on the back foot. He has to deal with the Death Knight with no Icebound, no anti-magic shield, a Monk with no touch of Karma. Burley with 0 mana and 30% healing reduction. Can he pull off the miracle?
I don't know. Baruch, though, getting a huge drink in the meantime when Lucy traded out that bubble, so a very good strategy. Chrono getting lower, Balia getting lower, Burley into the full Hodge. Windwalker DK Nation is in a lot of trouble as they get knocked out of the AMZ. Nicely done by Rocket. How is Chrono going to survive this one? Burley kites away, trying to get the heals out, but he is just no mana. Windtear connects, and ultimately, Keyboard Rhythm will take game number 3. I like what they did there. Lucy, he had the Divine Shield. Baruch capitalized, said, you know what? I'm going to go for a drink. It's completely fine if you trade out your shield because if I get a little mana, we are going to win this game.
Finally, Keyboard Rhythm get back in the tune that they want to be in. They are going to be on match point here, but ultimately, what a crazy game. And that's one of those dampening games that you got to love because it's just a slugfest all the way through. First thing that I want to talk about, though, when we break this down, has to be the positioning that we saw. The positioning, absolutely crazy. Two teams that want to be positioned very differently at times, and you see Procket just able to bait people into the middle of the map, all of a sudden negating things like Spirit Link. Zico, in your expert opinion, what exactly was going on as far as positioning is concerned?
I think Keyboard Rhythm really did a good job using the big map. A lot of the time we see these teams that have a clear advantage on big maps like Tolveron not really utilize the map because they like to sit at the pillar and kind of just run out around it. But we did see Borug consistently staying on max range, staying in the open, and the reason why, of course, is so that the Red Paladin has a line of sight, so you can use that Hand of Sacrifice, Hand of Sanctuary, as well as the Ele Shaman, just having an easy time assisting with off heals, hexes, and of course damage. So I mean, they did a good job using this map, but this is also the largest map in the pool. You can be pretty certain that Windwalker DK are going to be picking something a little bit smaller, maybe Dalaran, Blackrock Hold, something like that for the upcoming game.
I will say though, Windwalker DK Nation just seems to be put in these terrible positions over and over again. Large reason is because Keyboard Rhythm has straight up made a composition that is made to destroy them, and now they're on a map like Tolveron, like you said, and they are still making this close. For quite a while, Sid, it looked like they were going to be able to take it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until maybe 25% dampening when Divine Shield, which is a 4-minute cooldown, something like that, managed to rotate back available. And when that happened, they could just push and get aggressive without having to worry about dying. They could trade it for drinks. So because Procket's team could stall it out long enough, Windwalker DK Nation lost their win condition. The map is about to be selected, and as Zico has highlighted, Blackrock Hold Arena is going to be advantageous to the melee cleave. They want to try and get Borug to stay close to his teammates. Picking a small map with close quarters really prevents them from creating space, and I'm curious to see if Keyboard Rhythm can overcome that disadvantage.
I mean, hey, look, the team that I think has been overcoming disadvantages left and right really is Windwalker DK Nation. I think Keyboard Rhythm, their biggest disadvantage that they really have is this probably isn't their main comp, right? You have two opposite things going on here. Keyboard Rhythm basically is playing the counter comp, probably not as perfect on it. Windwalker DK Nation has named themselves after something because they are so goddamn good at it.
Yeah, that is true. Just similar to Method Orange. I mean, they have lots of different compositions they can run, but they're always defaulting back to that Windwalker DK setup because you can play it in so many different ways. When you have the Unholy as well as the Frost Death Knight, it gives you a lot of variety in the strategies that you can implement. You can play a long game, you can play an all-in rushdown. So overall, Windwalker DK, very strong, well-rounded comp, and that's why you see a good team like them in a top 8 position.
And that's the other thing, too, that you need to think about with Windwalker DK is if you're playing it at skill cap, there are so many different win conditions that you really can find. We've seen the sit on the healer condition. We've seen it go to dampening and actually be able to pull off things with very juicy setups, being able to get out that CC, finding your target, rotating through the cooldowns. Windwalker DK Nation is a team that can find multiple win conditions with it, but they're up against Keyboard Rhythm, and Keyboard Rhythm also going to have the momentum.
Absolutely. I mean, right now, Windwalker DK Nation have a really good shot at taking this particular game because of the map. They can kind of stay in that room and they can get those triple stuns or double stuns whenever Keyboard Rhythm enters one of those rooms. So they have a lot of freedom, if you will, in that sense. But at the same time, I think Keyboard Rhythm, they also have a lot of win conditions here. They have the Earthquake, they have the Stormkeeper, they have all of these AoE abilities themselves, and they can really maybe drag on the game and just take it right here on Black Rock Cold. Honestly, I would have rather seen Dalaran because it's a small map, but it allows a little bit easier hit and run for the Windwalker DK. I think Keyboard Rhythm actually can kind of poke them down in the room and then go in when it's like a little bit more safe.
That was what I was going to say. Dalaran was actually my pick as well. The thing that happens here is I Love Lucy just gets to hang out in that room as well. When they want to be porting back into that room, trying to get the other team in there, I Love Lucy just comes in and goes, hello, I'm home, and just gets to AoE everybody down. The one thing that it will really target, though, very well, which Dalaran 2 is also what is Procket. When we talk about Procket so many times in that last match, being able to run away, all of a sudden Croto and Balia have to run for about 4 hours to get over to Procket to try to be hitting Procket, try to be disrupting what Procket's able to do, and then Burley's just like, wait, guys, I need you to come back. I need you to come home. I'm not going to be able to Spirit Link here. That was their last line of defense, and Procket's just like, haha, and then ultimately he's able to get off things like Stormkeeper and still put out crazy amounts of pressure. So Procket is probably the most pissed off player with this map, for sure, but ultimately, what can Procket here do, Supatis, to negate that disadvantage and still try to help Keyboard Rhythm pick up a win on Blackrook?
I mean, this map's broken down into two halves. You've got one side with Swifty skateboard ramp, and then you got the other side with this is completely open playing field. So if the Elemental Shaman plays in the open playing field side and kind of goes back and forth with the very long distances, it's going to be much easier for him. So I'm curious. I want Procket to play on that side of the map. He's not allowed to go on the skateboard ramp. It's just no fun for him, basically, in this game.
Swifty says, you can't play on my skateboard ramp. Not here. Not in this elimination series. Will Keyboard Rhythm be able to close this one out and move forward in the tournament?
Yeah, Windwalker DK Nation looking to get aggressive very early on. Nice enemy coming in from Rocket, though, to slow them down just a little bit, force them to hit Lucy. You can see Croto and Balia moving in position onto Procket. Can they get the grip double stun? There it is. Sank's going to be forced out, and what it is for Windwalker DK Nation is they need to constantly be winning these little victories, getting the Sanks, getting the trinkets. If they can consistently do that, eventually they'll have a moment where they can push.
They got a really good crowd control chain on Borg that put him very far behind. He's trying to be greedy. He's so far squeaking away with the greed. They managed to interrupt the Stormkeeper. Procket trying to look for an ice ray. He gets windshield, and like I said, he's playing on the open side of the map, away from the skateboard ramp. And if he plays on this side, he could drag Burley into the open. He's got to pull a little bit further away. Looks like they actually want to get aggressive and push on top of Burley. Procket not really able to get there. Lucy's going to go on a solo mission. Can Lucy solo Burley? Will he react in time? He trinkets immediately, but it was at the end of the stun. Now gets interrupted on the heel. Lucy's looking for a solo kill. Rocket moves in to finish the job. Another Hammer of Justice. Burley can easily fall. He pops Ascendant's Astral Shift. They managed to pull way more cooldowns than they normally would because Burley wanted to be greedy.
Yeah, that greed is ultimately not going to pay off, but Baruch could be in a little bit of trouble as Croto and Valia connect onto him. A lot of pressure coming in. He's trying to fake cast some of the interrupts. Is he going to be greedy too? Trying to kite away. You can see Procket just spamming out the heals. He gets windsheared into a Hex. Nicely done by Burley to deny some of that support, but ultimately Baruch's going to be able to top himself off. Nice double fist of Fury Stun coming in from Valia, forcing out the trinket, and Baruch still, although he's surviving, at what cost? I mean, Croto and Valia able to stay on top of him, keep up this pressure, and that's a Divine Shield.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just running down the Holy Paladin, trying to purge off the Blessing of Freedoms on the small map is going to be the best decision. I mean, they are Windwalker Death Knight, Vinruki. I feel like the healer is almost always a decent target for this composition, and they are trying to gun down Borog, but really having a difficult time staying on target. He's managed to recover. Now caught into a leg, so he gets Sanctuaried out. He's got to create distance, but they're all over him. Burley is running down on top of him with Spam Purge as well. It's a race to the finish. Windwalker DK Nation are going all in on match point. Can they find it in time?
Yeah, not a bad idea, but Croto getting low, trading off the guys down Fortitude. This is the problem when you leave Procket alone. He's going to be able to put out a lot of pressure. Baruch though in so much trouble. Gets a Divine Light off on himself. Still trying to kite away, but with the way he's kiting, he's always in the open for Burley to get out those purges, get off those freedoms, allow Croto and Bally to have that uptime. But now Burley's going to be a little bit overextended as well, taking some pressure. I Love Lucy's going to be rotting down Procket as well. You see Croto, he's just trying to solo down Baruch at this point. Balia with a nice split strategy, keeping everyone on the enemy team low.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Borog is having a hard time. He needs to survive for at least 10 more seconds. Can he keep his team alive for 10 more seconds? As soon as he gets to that window, he's going to have Avenging Wrath, but he might not make it 8 more seconds. Procket with a knockback, but Croto was immune. Croto's right on top of him. Balia will reconnect. Borog needs 3 more seconds, 2 more seconds. That Avenging Wrath could top him off. Blessing of Protection, Avenging Wrath. He gets silence on it. They purge it off. He might not be able to connect the heal. He's got big boosted healing, but he needs to get the cast off. He catches one. Lucy's now still low. Borog trying to work through it. He's managed to restabilize. He's managed to survive the critical mass. Lucy's now trying to make a swap against Death Grip. So far away from Burley into the paralysis. Good teamwork to get Lucy off of Burley.
Yeah, it was very nicely done. Burley now going to be completely free to get some heals off on his team. Doesn't have the Ascendance, though, so Bali could still be in trouble. Does not have that touch of karma for another couple seconds. Forced to retreat behind the pillar, and now Baruch finally has a moment to breathe to top off his team. That was such a scary moment. They basically got every single defensive from Baruch at that point, so Lucy is the only one that's going to be able to support him with that Blessing of Sanctuary, with the Blessing of Protection. Bali, in the meantime, though, forced to trade out the Karma. It was a nice setup. Good CC on a Burley, nice damage on the Balia, and that's going to put Windwalker DK Nation maybe a little bit defensive.
Yeah, I mean, Burley needs to consider going aggressive with his team and using Trinket Spirit Link, because Borog is a very exposed target if they could just get on top of him, but he's very far away, max distance away from Burley. We see a paralysis as they set up on a Procket. No Astral Shift available. Will Procket be able to kite out and survive? Borog now forced to retreat or pull forward. He casts that Divine Favor. Big heal on Procket. Lucy getting cleaved down as well. Windwalker DK Nation are still putting up a great fight on match point. If they lose this, they will be out of the tournament. Keyboard Rhythm trying to stay alive. Proto rotting down. Balia rotting down. Burley with the Ascendance, but Procket gets Death Grip back. Triple Fist of Fury potentially here. Borog is stacked with the team. This is not where he wants to be. Realizing that, he retreats back away, separating away from the Death Knight, but he's got to deal with Croto. Croto could look for a solo kill. 10 seconds away from Pillar of Frost. Croto all over him. Balia instantly reconnecting. Borog with very little left. Lucy has a Blessing of Protection. They're not going to trade it out. Borog in danger. He could fall. Windwalker DK Nation look to stay alive in the tournament. Borog caught in the full stun. He triggers at the final seconds, but into a Mind Freeze, into a Fist of Fury, and Windwalker DK Nation, Smork face, taking down the healer and staying alive, bringing us to a game number 5.
All tied up, and this game 5 is going to